Hey guys, it's Daisy Bateman here with the new podcast series, Happy Days. Each week I will be talking to some of your favourite players and diving into their lives outside of football. To keep up to date with the podcast, check out all of North's socials and visit nmfc.com.au for more content. Hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome back to Happy Days. Today I'm joined by one of the truest shin boners. He has played 165 games for North Melbourne, kicked 119 goals, won a premiership in 1996, has been the caretaker coach 3 different times, has coached 15 games for the men's program, but is now the North Melbourne AFLW coach. Please welcome Darren Crocker. Hey Croc, how you going?
Hello Days, good to be here.
I'm glad. What's been going on?
Well, as you would know, we're so well entrenched into our season. So 2 rounds in now and 1-1, coming off a quite a close loss to Adelaide on the weekend. And
so how have you found the season so far? It's probably been a bit of a story so far. Yeah,
look, I think having come into the women's space for the first time last year, I was feeling my way a little bit as the coach, throughout the pre-season and then throughout the season proper. This season I felt, and you might be able to elaborate on this as well, I felt that our pre-season's been able to be far more targeted. Last year, I was trying to get a feel for it, so it was quite broad.
Yep.
A lot of skill development, a bit of match sim, game knowledge, obviously as well as the conditioning. Whereas this year I felt that, we've really drilled down on game scenario stuff. The conditioning's gone to another level, and they've probably been the 2 main areas that we really wanted to address and target. Yep. I think we've been able to do that. And now it's just a matter of, hopefully it translates into games. 2 games in, it's probably not a big sample size, but as we know, the AFLW being the length it is, you can't get caught napping. Otherwise, all of a sudden, the season gets away from you pretty quickly. So,
yeah, for sure.
We had a strong win against Geelong. They really challenged us with their style of football. As I said, against Adelaide, there were some good signs, but some areas to continue to work on, and hopefully we can continue to build throughout the year. Yeah.
I guess you touched on it a little bit in terms of you trying to find your way last year as a women's coach.
Yeah.
How has the transition been from coaching men to coaching women? I'm sure you get asked that all the time.
Yeah, I do get asked that a lot. Look, it's I'd be lying if I said that there weren't differences.
Yeah.
I read an article when I was coming into the women's space that the difference between coaching male athletes, I was just doing some research, and the difference between coaching male athletes and female athletes. And male athletes tend to be, they want to win you over, to be valued by what they do out on the park.
Yep.
Whereas, female athletes, they like to build that relationship with you, right? Have you value them, and then they will go and perform.
Yeah.
So I've actually have noticed that in the women's program, and I think it was really important for me initially, as you would know, to build those relationships first.
Yeah.
Have strong relationships, and then you can work out, the individuals. What buttons to press with the certain individuals. I'd love to build those relationships through storytelling. Either me telling a story about myself and my upbringing and my family now, or actually the players sharing their stories and stuff. And your story, when you shared your story with me, was an amazing story, and I really enjoyed that. And I think that's the best way to build those relationships. And now I've got those relationships, I feel that I'm more comfortable with how I can just go about things.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess going back to when you were appointed the coach, you probably copped a bit of backlash. I know we've talked about that a little bit as well. I know as a player in the program, I started off being a bit unsure about what you were going to be like. You probably didn't have any experience coaching women at all. How did you deal with that, like coming in? I know you're the kind of person that focuses in the present, like that's probably your one philosophy. But how did you like cope with the backlash, I guess?
Didn't really notice it. I think the biggest thing was, a lot of the players, had a couple of years with Scotty. Even some had served community football experience with Scotty Gowans, the previous coach, and had really good relationships with him. And I wasn't, I think I said last year, I wasn't coming in to revolutionise the program. I was hoping to just be able to evolve the program, because a lot of the stuff that Scotty had done and implemented with the other people in the program, had obviously been working. It'd been quite successful without obviously getting the ultimate success. But, so, and I didn't want to diminish the relationships that anyone had with Scotty either. Like if a player feels like it's great to have a mentor like him outside of our program, that's great. I suppose it does come back to just me, just the day-to-day, just being myself, being a natural coach, building those relationships, trying to impart my game knowledge, trying to grow the individual both pretty holistically, both as a person and also as a player, skill development, from a football perspective, and then, just those connections off the field as well.
Yeah, for sure. And when you first got approached to be the AFLW coach, did you have any conversations with your family at home? How did you kind of decide to take on the role?
Yeah, I certainly did. When I got approached by the club to do the role, obviously it was through the initial stages of COVID. So there was a lot of change going on in the football industry with soft caps and people being asked to multitask and do dual roles, and that's pretty much how it came up for me. I'd never thought about coaching women before. I'd been comfortable coaching in the men's space, coaching boys. I've coached especially my younger boys team. Now for a couple of years. So it was definitely something I needed to think about. But it was probably the women in my family, my wife and my two daughters, who really convinced me. I remember sitting at dinner. And when I put it out there on the table, what do you guys think? It's totally different for me. It's going to be a different challenge. How do you think? And they were really, really supportive. And in particular, my wife's always been very supportive with whatever I've done. But I think in particular my daughters, to hear it come from them, a 23-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old daughter say, "Dad, we reckon you'd be great, coaching in a women's space and coaching, young women." So that was really the thing that got me over the line and said, I'm going to do this. It's a great challenge. And with their blessing and their encouragement, I sort of decided to put my hand up for it. Yeah,
lovely. And I guess your coaching style, I don't think I've ever had a coach like you, to be honest.
You tell me. What is it? What's the coaching style you feel?
I reckon you started quite nice, and
I think now I've got nasty.
No, I think you're a very honest and direct coach, which I think it's pretty obvious you want the best out of your players. That's definitely pretty obvious. And the way you kind of push us on the track and you expect the best from us, you see someone walking, you're like, Daisy, get on your bike and start running. You vocalise, you coach from the bench as well. I don't think I've ever had a coach that coaches from the bench. How do you see your own style? Have you had people in the past that you've been coached by that have influenced the way you coach now?
Yeah, look, last year, because I was getting a feel for the program and everyone and building those relationships, I think, mellow, the right word, I'm not too sure, but, I was probably a little bit maybe passive with the way I sort of went about the coaching, and that was okay, because as I said, I wanted to build relationships first. I thought that was really important to where we wanted to go. I think I've said to a number of the players before that, I want to get to a stage where it's like my own children. You can sort of give really honest and direct feedback to your own children because over a long period of time, you've built a relationship where they know that it's coming from the right place. They know it's coming from a place of care and interest, right? And you're just wanting the best for them. And the stronger relationships I can build with the players, hopefully they realise that it is coming from the right place and it's just not an irrational outburst just for the sake of me, just letting off a bit of steam. You know, I don't want to be that type of coach that just, you know, comes from a place of just, oh yeah, Croc's just blown his a gasket because, you know, he's just trying to let off a bit of steam because he's frustrated. You know, I hope that people see that I'm quite measured and considered with the way I go about my coaching, and it is, you know, built strongly around building those relationships, so then the honest feedback can be direct.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've done a lot of work as well in pre-season leading to now on taking that feedback as well.
Yeah.
I think that the difference between, you know, maybe the past years that we've been in and this year is that you never really take it that personally. I mean, even on the field, like, we have to make each other better and accountable as well. So I think that's probably been the one thing that you've pushed on as well. But what else you've pushed on is a bit of Kung Fu Panda.
Well, even like the review last night, I thought it was important to then do a reset on whenever we're showing growth clips, you know, in the reviews that, you know, it's not about the individual in the clip.
Cut the head off.
Cut the head off. Cut the head off, you know, and just it's a blue and white striped jumper.
Yep.
And what we're seeing right at that moment isn't what we're after.
Yeah.
And this is just a great example for everyone to learn from.
Yep.
So I still feel like we got a little bit of a way to go with that.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
sometimes if individuals see themselves bob up in the reviews, you know, on a couple of occasions, they think it's reflective of their game, and it may not be reflective of their game.
Yep.
It might be the 2 times that they didn't quite get it right that the whole group can learn from, but they may have actually still been able to impact the game in a positive way.
Yeah. Did you have vision when you played?
Towards the end of my career.
Yeah, okay.
But not the vision that you players get now, like behind the goals, wide view of the stoppage, then the broadcast vision. We pretty much only had the broadcaster's vision.
Yeah, so that was
the one angle.
That was the whole way through your career, or just towards the end?
That was throughout my whole career. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So if you're walking, sort of, if you're just as a forward days and you're just walking, you know, and you didn't have behind the goal vision, you got out of it. Or you didn't quite chase, as long as it wasn't in the actual broadcaster's screen.
Maybe we should just incorporate the broadcast vision now.
Well, to give you an idea, John Kennedy Senior, my first ever senior coach, you know, so I came into the program as an 18-year-old into the senior program. Unbelievable. Had him for 5 years. Revered figure, tremendous person, great values. Taught me a lot, you know, about not just football but life. And he was for me, I think he was the ideal person, you know, to go from my parents, you know, their parenting, and to him, you know, to carry on those values and develop me as a person. But he used to always talk about the vision. He'd go, as long as I see more blue and white jumpers in the TV screen than the opposition, right, I know we are having a go. I know we are outnumbering. I know we're going to win those contests.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how he based a lot of his coach when he was watching, whether we had more jumpers in the screen. Maybe even the early days, it might have been black and white. Nah, I'm only joking.
Probably was, to be honest.
It might have been grey and white. So, nah.
You've been a part of the club for a long, like you've been here pretty much since you've finished playing. Besides, you went to Richmond, didn't you?
I went to Port Melbourne for a year.
Yep.
So that was a great experience. You know, when you talk about my coaching journey, I really didn't have much interest in coaching until probably just towards the end of my playing career.
Okay.
My last year, I was in and out of the senior team and playing in the reserves.
Yep.
And I was the elder statesman in the reserves. When I went back to play in the reserves, I think, you know, a lot of the time, you know, I was 31-year-old and I was playing with 23 and under guys.
Okay.
Right. So I was probably the extension of the coaching out on the field, and really took it upon myself to really help the younger players.
Yep.
And that's where, you know, a little bit of sort of fire in the belly got lit for coaching. You know, I thought, that's actually good. And then when I retired, I got approached by a few clubs to go, and I still wanted to play. You know, I still felt like, physically I was capable of potentially still playing and being able to impact games. So the opportunity came up at Port Melbourne as a playing coach, and I went there, and it was just a great introduction into coaching because you pretty much one out. You're the coach, you're moving the cones, you're pumping the footies up, you're dealing with the players with their relationships away from football. You sort of almost become a mentor to them, as well as us. And so just the broadness of that sort of type of coaching, I think it actually was really good for me.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of that year, Danny Frawley got the job at Richmond and approached me to come on board at Richmond. I actually did get asked to come back to North at the same time. Dennis asked for me to come back, but I also remembered a conversation with Dennis when I was leaving the club that he felt it would be best for me to go and experience somewhere else, having been here, from a 16-year-old, go and experience another club, another culture, another environment. And, so I reminded him of that conversation when he asked me to come back after just 1 year away, and I thought that it was best for me to still go and experience that. So I went to Richmond for 5 years with Danny Frawley, and that was a great experience. Met some wonderful people, different environment. Two guys I worked with there, Greg Hutchison and David Whedon. They were great. They were older or more senior coaches, had a wealth of experience. So they really helped me along the way. And David Whedon is still a mentor to me today. We sort of catch up for coffees. Haven't caught up with him for a while. He's probably dirty on me at the moment, but we will shortly.
Yeah, lovely. And so how did you end up coming back to North?
Yeah, so then after 5 years, there was a change of coaching at Richmond. We had sort of a little bit of success at the start of our campaign. First year we just missed the finals. Finished ninth. I think that was the story of Richmond at the time. They finished ninth a lot. The following year we made a prelim, but we got sort of whacked by Brisbane, in the prelim. They went on to win the premiership. They were the best team by far that year. And then it sort of fell away the next 3 years to the point where Danny got asked to, move on. And they pretty much swept the deck with him. So all of us went. But, fortunately for myself, the opportunity came up to come back and coach with an old premiership teammate of mine, Danny Laidley. So that was fantastic, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah. And to talk about like the evolution of North Melbourne, how much has it actually changed?
I think aesthetically it's changed. Like here we are, like sitting up in this beautiful coaching tower that's been designed. I think $7 million got put into this development so that we could bring football back to Arden Street, our spiritual home. So it's great to see AFLW games. How good is it when we play here in front of our own fans?
Oh, amazing.
And we've got a 100% record so far. So, and we're back here on Sunday, so we've got to maintain that record. But so it's great to see AFLW football here, VFLW, VFL. And also just obviously the men's program being able to use this. It's now the same size as Marvel Stadium, which it got reconfigured. It used to be a lot smaller, like a bit of a postage stamp ground. We had to do this just to be able to sort of compete with a lot of the other teams. We couldn't continue to exist in the old sort of social club and portables. And, if someone put a heater on in one room, all the electricity went off, even if you were doing a meeting, and some of the stories we could tell. But the fabric of the footy club hasn't changed. The DNA of this football club has never changed. Right? Our links to our past, which is unique to us, the Shinbone spirit is well and alive within this football club. And I think that's the really important thing that we never ever lose that.
And I think as a player, like even playing under someone like you, you've had the experience of playing here. You're also a part-time player as well when you played, similar to all of us as well. It's actually really valuable when you play at a ground like Arden Street and it means something to you because you push that on us like every time we play here.
Well, there's an element where I think every game you should treat every game the same. You should get yourself up for every game. The
Yep.
attitude should never change. But, you just can't help but, just get a special feeling when you come back and run out that race here and run onto Arden Street, I feel.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to play in the last ever game, proper game here, in the men's program, VFL, back in the days when it was called the VFL against Richmond. We played here. And, that was a really special occasion and something I hold dear to me. But, it's a special place, and it's been an enormous part of my life. I've spent more than half my life here, which is amazing. To think that.
How many years in total have you been here?
Well, as I said, I sort of played my first ever game in 1983 in a practice game.
Yeah.
With the under-19s. The under-19s had made the grand final.
Yep.
And they had a week off.
Yep.
Leading into the grand final, and Dennis Pagan was coaching the under-19s, and he wanted them to still have a hit out the weekend before that, the weekend off that they had. And on the Friday afternoon, they got a lot of the players from the local zones. So
Yep.
I lived in the North Melbourne zone out in Furniture Gully, and I just remember I got picked up from school in a cab, jumped in a cab with Mark Lyle and John O'Donoghue and a few other guys from the local area, and we came down and played in that practice game. So I was I just turned 16, I think, at that stage. Then I got invited to the under-19s the following year, 1984. Played in the flag under Dennis in '84, and then the following year I started in the under-19s. Came up, played 5 games. So I think I played 4 games in the 19s, 5 games in the reserves. And then we had a spate of injuries, and I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to play seniors.
Yeah, wow.
So I just turned 18.
Wow.
Yeah, that was so I made my debut against Hawthorn. First time John Kennedy Senior had coached against his old team.
Yep.
MCG, Queen's Birthday Monday.
Wow.
And the result?
Yeah.
A draw.
Oh.
My first game was a draw.
Where did you play? What position did you play?
I started on the wing and I ended up forward.
Did you kick any in your debut?
No, I didn't. I took quite a nice mark at the sort of near the goalpost, and I remember the occasion. I was just reminiscing with Phil Cracker the other day about it. So I've been put back on the angle, and I've gone back, and my bootlace had a knot in it, so I'm trying to undo this knot. The crowd are rousing me, like, "Come on, get going, mate!" And Phil's in my ear saying, "Hey, brother, just come out and just snap it back." And I'm going, "Yeah, that's all right for you, Phil, but you're talking to someone completely different." So I did what he said, but I didn't quite execute it right and hit the post. And then I remember Phil took me to that spot at Arden Street during the week, and we had 10 shots, and he showed me what he meant. And I sort of kicked each one of them. So that was great from him. I was telling him about, he remembered the initial part of it, but he couldn't remember me sort of him taking me to that spot.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But speaking about Phil Cracker, Jimmy and Phil both played in that game against Hawthorn. We were 6 points down with only sort of seconds remaining, and Phil just weaved his way through traffic and kicked an unbelievable goal to put the scores back to level. And then the ball went back to the centre bounce, and the siren went. So,
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And even on the Cracker Brothers, last year, obviously, in Indigenous round, you played a highlight reel of the brothers before the game.
Yeah.
How much of an influence did they have on, your views on the Indigenous players in the league?
Look, I feel really privileged to have played with both of them. I wish I was more educated about racism at the time because as a young person playing with them, and to hear the abuse not only just over the fence but from opposition on the field, is now sort of looking back on it, it's quite disturbing and must have been really tough for those guys. Really interesting. They dealt with it in different ways. Like Jimmy probably dealt with it, with aggression and, sometimes over the top aggression, using his fists. And Phil was more, just with humour, sort of asking back, well, where do you come from? So he dealt. I can clearly sort of remember them dealing with it differently. Yep. But if I had been more educated, if I had been a bit older, more experienced, I feel like I probably could have actually stood up for them more.
Yeah.
I felt like at times they probably didn't get the support they deserved.
Yeah. I think it's pretty amazing even Phil now. I know he works pretty closely with some of our Indigenous players, girls in our team. It's pretty amazing that, he was pretty ill-treated while he was playing, and that now he's pretty willing to make a difference in other people's lives as athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he's doing some really good work with, homeless children, or children from really difficult backgrounds down around St Kilda, and it's great that he can be part of our programs and come down and, you're right. The Indigenous players within both the men's and the women's program, you can just see how much they light up when Phil comes down, and
100%.
Which is great. And he's got really good relationships with them, but not just with them, but with the wider group.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
you had to stop him from talking too much to us the other night. Phil came down to our training and he was basically telling us a bit about his journey, and Croc had to interrupt him because he was speaking for too long.
Well, it was funny because he said, Croc, can I have a little chat to the girls, quick chat? And I said, yeah, mate, no problem. So obviously it was between us doing the warm-up and then going into the first drill.
Yep.
And so by the time he'd finished, he'd warmed down again, right? And I had to send you for another warm-up. I had to sort of cut him short. But, look, COVID's just been difficult for all those sort of things,
Definitely.
It's been difficult. I'd love to get Phil down again at some point, coming into Indigenous round this year.
Yep.
If Jimmy was in town, it'd be great to get Jimmy down.
Definitely.
Or, any of our sort of our wealth of Indigenous players that we've had at this football club. Pride round this weekend. Danny, I'd mentioned Danny Laidley. She's coming to the game. She's going to toss the coin.
Yeah.
But with COVID, I'm not too sure whether I can get her to speak to the group.
Yeah.
But it's making things a little bit challenging and probably preventing us from being able to do things that we want to do. But everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we're going to segue into some quick fire questions.
Quick fire questions.
Yeah. I know you don't like to just give one word answers, so I guess this won't be very quick fire. The first one's a little bit controversial because I know what your first answer might be, but who has been one of your favourite players to coach over your journey? Don't say you don't have favourites.
I don't have favourites. Early doors at Richmond, there was a player when I was development coach, and there was a player named Mark Coughlin at Richmond that I really enjoyed coaching. Just his style and the way he wanted to get better and learn, and I probably gravitate to players who are really driven and want to drive their own careers and want to use me as a resource for that. In the men's program, there's been a number of different players. I coached the back line initially when I came here. I then moved into the midfield. When I was in the midfield, working with guys like Andrew Swallow, Daniel Wells, Ben Cunnington, Jack Zeeble when he was in as a midfielder. When I was down back, Scotty Thompson, seeing how his career, developed. Daniel Pratt, Jess Sinclair, it really. I know you'd love a one answer, but it is really difficult when you've probably been in the game for as long as I have and have had. Hopefully you've had a little bit of impact on a number of different careers. Yeah.
Who is your favourite player to play with?
Favourite player to play with? Favourite player to play with? Look, I'd have to say, whether he's the favourite player to play with, the player that I've just, marvelled at what he could do was Wayne Carey.
Yeah.
He was just absolute, best player that I ever played with. I used to say before Wayne Carey came along, Jimmy Cracker was the best player I played with.
Yep.
Jimmy, for his size, pound for pound, just unbelievable.
Yep.
Tackle, it didn't matter how big they were, he'd tackle with unbelievable aggression. He'd hit the pack. How we talk about getting the 10 out of 10 positions.
Yep.
He could sort of just time it and get to that spot at the right time.
Yeah.
So he didn't sort of have to plonk himself too much.
Yep.
He'd be getting there and just still being on the move and just be able to take the ball off the pack. and his delivery, and his awareness was amazing. But yeah, then when Wayne Carey came along and started impacting games like he did, I've never experienced a player that when the game's in the balance, and you're looking for someone to just stand up, he was the one who was putting his hand up the highest, going, just get the ball in my area and I'll show us the way home here.
Yeah, wow.
I'll do something here. So his ability to be able to do that was amazing. I've got some, still got some really good friends out of football that I enjoy playing with. Craig Scholl's still a great mate of mine, and so we used to have some great banter. Alex Yashenko, another really good friend, Anthony Rock, Anthony Stevens, Glenn Archer. Like I was very, very lucky to play with a lot of great players, and just importantly, really good people. That I still have a really good relationship with. Mark Brayshaw, who only spent a short amount of time here as a player. Came back as on the board more recently and helped turn the fortunes of the footy club around. There's been a lot of players that only spent short periods of time here, but this place had such an impact on their lives that they've actually wanted to actually put back, which has been really nice.
Have you found that many of the people that you played with watch our games now?
Yep. Yeah, it's been I wouldn't say overwhelming, because it's been actually really nice that a lot of those guys are actually taking a real interest in, and maybe it's a bit of an interest because I'm the coach, and they're sort of interested in how my coaching is still progressing, and they're wanting potentially success for me individually. But I like the fact that it spills over to you players,
100%,
and that they're actually feeling like they want to be a part of like our journey together.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So they quite often, even out of the weekend's game, I would have had 5 text messages, 2 phone calls from past players.
Yeah, wow.
Talking about the effort was really good. Pity you just fell short. Keep it going. Not far away. All those sort of really encouraging comments, which is nice.
Yeah, I have an interesting question. I wonder if you can answer it. Do you have anyone in our team now that kind of reminds yourself when you played?
Well, that's an interesting one. If I had to describe myself as a player, it was, someone that was flexible. I think that would be, I think most people would, if they looked at my career, they'd say, Croc was flexible. Started his career down back, started in the back pocket.
Yeah, wow. Normally you're meant to retire there, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I went the other way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was going to go over the fence at some point, but I went the other way. So, I started, and maybe that was the coaching. Let's put him down back. Let's teach him how to defend. Let's give him the confidence of, running around, chasing someone around, and defending them. Then I graduated up into the midfield, playing a bit more wing. There was a season there where I actually played on ball, and it was more as a bit of a run with player. Like going on the opposition's better mids. And then slowly I ended up serve as a forward, half forward, full forward. Probably my best year, and I didn't get injured. That's probably part of the reason, was in 1992, and I played half forward flank for the majority of that year. We didn't go that well as a team, but
didn't you come like third in the BNF or something?
Second, yeah.
Second,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah. Get it right, Days.
Who won then?
Wayne Carey.
Yeah, okay, fair enough then.
So, that was when the big fellow, that was his breakout year.
Yeah,
that was his, first really breakout season, and he, got me in the end.
So, to answer the question.
Yeah, so just versatility. I'm just trying to think of someone, in our team that is quite versatile.
You saying you're more versatile than everyone?
No, not really. Like, I don't really, because I would never consider myself and my career as strong as an Emma Carney. Like, she's now sort of been able to go to half back, learn another role, be versatile. But she's a star.
Yeah,
you know,
she is.
Yeah. You know, Jamin, like Jazz Garner, another star.
Yep.
You know, can play midfield, can go forward, be really dangerous.
Yep.
And I'm sure if we put her down back,
Yeah, she'd be great.
she'd be okay too.
Yep.
And the fact that she can actually, under pressure, we can put her back at loose and she'll still mop up and take intercept marks. And but there's probably, you know, I'm just trying to think someone that's reasonable height, covers the ground okay. You know, maybe a Brooke Brown,
Yep.
you know, like that sort of, you know, played her a bit forward. I'm sure Brooke could maybe even go and play on a wing at a pinch.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and then she's did a really good job in her second ever AFLW game, right?
She had like how many intercept marks?
I think she had 9 intercept possessions.
So yeah, she was incredible.
So that's what I reminded her of last night. I said, you realise that was only your second AFLW game?
It's crazy.
And I said, and when you reflect on your first one, it was far better than your first one.
Yeah.
She said, well, that wouldn't have been hard. But
she's had a full positional change as well. Like she hasn't had much like opportunity down back. When she played for, I think it was East Launceston or Launceston, over in Tassie, she was a forward.
Forward ruck. She played a little bit.
And she kicked thousands and thousands of goals. Like she was a goal kicker. And in the VFLW season last year, she went back and she killed it.
Well, we even played her a little bit forward in the VFLW, and she kicked, I think, 2 bags of 4. And
that's right.
Maybe 4 and 3 or 4 and 4. So it's been a bit of a bold move to put her down back, but it's been one that's been, I think, really good for the team.
Yeah.
You know, like especially with the fact that we've swung Tails forward.
Yep.
You know, Tails, you know, coming out of that first game, you can just see what type of contest she, if she gets her positioning right, what she can do to create a contest for us.
When she starts clunking the marks, we were talking about it last night at training, me and Jazz Garner were saying, like, as soon as she starts taking those marks, like, there's no stopping her.
Yeah. So that's, there's been some encouraging things. So we've actually swung things around a little bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's been for the betterment of the group.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's important for the players to understand that we just don't do this. Oh, let's try such and such down back, and let's try this person forward. And you know, everything we do, there's a reason behind it.
Yeah,
you know, and
definitely.
There's a lot of thought put into it.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
hopefully that came through. You know, when I did the 1-on-1 with Mel.
Yeah,
at the start of the year.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that came through to the playing group.
Yeah, for sure.
They weren't really one word answers, were they?
No, that was the. I did a quick fire with Emma Carney one time, and she didn't really answer the question short. But you've really taken the cake with the long answers. I could have predicted that, though. You are a talker.
Oh yeah, well, you know, when you ask those sort of questions, that you know.
Yeah. Do you think if North Melbourne were to win a premiership, the AFLW side, would you consider it North Melbourne's 5th premiership?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. We are one club that consists of 4 teams now.
Yep.
So AFL, AFLW, VFL, VFLW.
Yeah.
Right. So it would bring so much delight, I think, to every North Melbourne supporter. Mm-hmm. And I know the men's program has existed for a very long time.
Yep.
You know, 150 years. So they're obviously going to have an enormous, amount of support behind that program.
Yep.
You know, we're growing our support. You know, the more we improve the product, you know, over time, the more we, can continue to engage with our fans and our supporters.
For sure.
It's only just going to build out, and they'll just value like an AFLW premiership, like an AFL premiership.
Yep, for sure. Well, I think that's us done for today, Croc.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, we sort of
we got through
that pretty quickly.
We definitely did.
You didn't have any more questions for me?
You've answered them well. So thank you for joining me, Croc.
Gee, Days, you've got a career in this sort of...
we'll see. Thanks, Croc.
I really enjoyed it, Days. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad.
When you asked me to come on, that song... Happy Days.
Yeah.
It's just been going over and over in my head, when I knew...
Maybe that should be the intro.
I think it should be.
It will be.
Good
well, thank you, Croc.
Thanks.